Hey everyone, Jennifer Lee Chan here from NBC Sports Bay Area. The schedule has been released and it looks very favorable for the 49ers. Lots of things to talk about and let's get to it. All right, so preseason, the 49ers will host Denver. Those are likely to be joint practices at Levi Stadium or at the SAP Performance Center. Then they will go to Vegas, play a game in week 2 of the preseason, and then again home where they will host the Los Angeles Chargers and Jim Harbaugh. So that's the preseason. All right, let's break down the season overall. Week 1, it will be in Seattle. In Seattle for the first week, that's a huge game to start out. It's a divisional game. Seattle will be having Sam Darnold. Not only that, but they also gained Cooper Kupp, DeMarcus Lawrence, Marquez Valdez-Scantling, former 49ers River Craycraft, and Eric Saubert. So it'll be interesting to see, Clint Kubiak versus Clay Kubiak and Kyle Shanahan and Coach Mike McDonald. Um, Good time to go to Seattle. It's not bitterly cold yet. It's not necessarily raining. Usually August, September is usually a good time to go up there. The 49ers have to start fast though. They cannot get the slow start to the season that we've seen in the past where they just get going around week 5. Week 1, they have to have that defense dialed up. They know Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold knows them. So that's week 1 in Seattle. 49ers need to have that defense ready to go. And Alfred Collins, CJ West in the middle of that defensive line. Alfred Collins has got to get his arms up, maybe block a couple of those passes, what he's done in the past. All right, week 2. This is my number 1 trip out of the entire season at New Orleans for week 2. It is a morning game, 10 a.m. Pacific Coast time. Um, it is Kellen Moore. It's defensive coordinator Brandon Staley versus Kyle Shanahan. Now, Brandon Staley obviously was with Kyle Shanahan for a season, so he might know a few things or two about maybe how to scheme up against Kyle Shanahan. But interesting, matchup here because the Saints have not been good. Who is their quarterback going to be? Former players that were with the 49ers. They have Dante Pettis. They have Chase Young, Isaac Yadam. They're bigger players that, have been playing well. Um, they have Justin Reed, who is Eric Reed's brother. Brandon Cooks, wide receiver. Um, their first pick of the draft was an offensive lineman. So does that help? I don't know. They were 5-12 last year. I think that's a game that the 49ers should win. Um, it's a fun town to go to. I suggest everybody book your hotels now for New Orleans, week 2, and that is September 14th. Week 3, first home game for the 49ers. It is versus the Arizona Cardinals. You see parallels here because Ricky Pearsall didn't have a bad season, but he was going against a lot, right? Missed training camp, hamstring, shoulder, and then was shot Labor Day weekend. So he has an excuse for not having the biggest season in his rookie year, being a first round pick. Marvin Harrison Jr., 62 catches, 885 yards, 8 touchdowns. I think there was a lot more expected out of him as a first round pick. So 49ers will host Arizona. Arizona drafted Walter Nolan with their first pick of the draft. He's the defensive tackle from Mississippi. 49ers, I think Matt Maiocco mocked him to the 49ers at one point. Standout players that the Arizona Cardinals have outside of Kyler Murray, the squirrel, Calais Campbell, 2 receivers that have played decently against the Niners, which is Greg Dortch and Zay Jones. Another player that they've got to keep an eye out for, Josh Sweat, who played in Philly last year. Now he's with the Arizona Cardinals. That means the offensive line has got to stay solid and protect Brock Purdy. All right, that's week 3. Arizona was 8-9 last year. Again, should be a competitive game. I would think a winnable one. Week 4, another home game. So they have 2 home games in a row, 2 away, 2 home. They host the Jacksonville Jags. So it is their new head coach, that is Liam Cohen. They have Travis Hunter. And the good thing about this being in week 4 is that we'll know how they're going to use Travis Hunter. Is he going to play cornerback? Is he going to play wide receiver? Is he going to do a little bit of both? How many reps can he be on the field in a single game? So we'll get to see that. Um, Last year, they were 4-13. This is a game that the 49ers should be able to win. It's week four. They have good players on that team. Will they be able to pull it together? Will the offense be able to pull it together? We'll see. On that team in free agency, they did pick up some offensive linemen, so that could help them a little bit. Last year, their top draft pick was wide receiver Brian Thomas out of LSU. They have Nick Mullins as their backup. CJ Beathard was there before. It's also where Nick Farrell played. It's also where Mac Jones played last year. CJ Beathard is not their backup anymore. So home game week four, that's Jacksonville. 49ers winnable game. Week five, it is at Levi's South. It is at Los Angeles facing the Rams. Sean McVay. It's Thursday night football. So this is a short week. The good thing about it being a short week is that it's a very short trip. It's just to Los Angeles. The 49ers will face that young defense. It's Jared Verse, it's Braden Fisk. Those guys kind of set the blueprint for what the 49ers did in the draft. 3 defensive linemen in the first 5 picks. Rams did a really good job last year, really showing up the defense. It's a good one. So they also picked up Devontae Adams. He's a guy who, plays well against the 49ers. So they still have Jimmy G. They still have Ahkello Witherspoon. Tutu Atwell is also a player that has played well against the Rams. I think the 49ers should beat the Rams. One of the 2 games for sure. They need to beat them twice. So that's week 5. Week 6, East Coast game, early morning game, Tampa Bay. They're going to play Baker Mayfield. Bucky Irving is a guy they need to stop the run. The 49ers did a lot during the draft to stop the run. So this is one of their big tests. Also in Arizona, facing Arizona with Kyler Murray, are those young defensive linemen going to be able to set the edges? We'll see that as well. So week 6 at Tampa Bay, East Coast trip, Baker Mayfield, and last year they were 10-7. They're probably the best team in the NFC South out there. That one could be a tough one for the 49ers. Baker Mayfield is pretty good. It's always that Nick Bosa, Baker Mayfield rivalry. We'll see what happens there. Week 7, back home. It's versus Atlanta. It is prime time. Atlanta was 8-9 last year, so it could be a competitive game. Maybe not. It's prime time though. Jeff Ulbrich is their defensive coordinator. That's the 49ers tie. It's Michael Penix, right? Will he be able to take that next step in his career? The interesting part about this game is that the Atlanta Falcons drafted 2 defensive linemen early in the draft. Jalen Walker from Georgia, defensive end, and James Pierce out of Tennessee. So those young defensive linemen, similar to the 49ers with those young defensive linemen, kind of getting their feet underneath them. By week 7, we should know who they are. Are they playing really well? Are they in lockstep with each other? Are they stopping the run? How will Kyle Shanahan scheme up against these young defensive players, because they had a difficulty playing against the Los Angeles Rams in 2024. All right, week 8 at Houston versus DeMeco Ryans. Houston was 10-7 last year. Again, they shored up the offensive line. It could be a better season for CJ Stroud, who had a challenging year in 2024. CJ Stroud came out just on fire when he was a rookie. Last year, second year, not as great. They do have Joe Mixon, ran over 1,000 yards last year. Nico Collins, over 1,000 yards as a receiver. They do have a decent offense. And they're going to have a decent defense because DeMeco Ryans is there. They have Danielle Hunter. They have Derek Stinley Jr. They have Jalen Petrie. So they have really good players on the defense. This is going to be an interesting one. It's Bobby Slowick was fired as the offensive coordinator. So they have a new one, Nick Haley. How is DeMeco going to scheme up against Kyle Shanahan? This is always going to be a fun one to watch. That defense is always going to be good, just like wherever Robert Saleh goes, defense is going to be good. Robert Saleh knows DeMeco Ryans. How's that matchup going to go? So, all right. Week 8 at Houston, week 9 at New York Giants. So this could be 2 10 a.m. games. They could stay on the East Coast. Houston's not as far. Usually they like to do it if it's really East Coast time, 2 games back to back. So we'll see. Maybe they will. I did hear that with this week 9 date, week 9 is Sunday, November 2nd at the New York Giants. It is also the same weekend as the New York Marathon. Cam Edmond told me. So book your hotels early. That's what I would say. Giants were 3-14 last year. Awful. But they do have Abdul Carter, who was a top pick in the draft from Penn State. They also have Cam Scatabo, guy who a lot of 49ers fans were saying, hey, pick that guy up out of Arizona State. They picked up quarterback Jackson Dart out of Mississippi at number 25, but it should be a battle between Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston for the quarterback spot at New York. So 49ers tie there. Demetrius Flanagan-Fowles is now a New York Giant. Week 10, home against the LA Rams. So it's again, the Rams series is tied up or done by week 10. That's kind of early. So two divisional games back to back. It is the Rams at home, week 10, and that is November 9th. Then they travel to Arizona in week 11, and that those both are afternoon games. So nothing crazy there. So home versus the Los Angeles Rams, away against the Arizona Cardinals. Week 12, Monday Night Football. That this will be potentially their third primetime game. Their primetime matchup opponents are not the most flashy because they're playing the last place teams. So there is a possibility the 49ers get flexed out of the PM games and end up playing in the afternoon. All right, so week 12, it's home game versus Carolina. Carolina has a lot of questions here, right? Bryce Young has shown that he can play well, but he also has not played well. He's been had dealt with injuries. Carolina was 5-12 in 2024. So I don't know. Carolina is not the best Monday Night Football matchup. They did pick up Tedero McMillan, first round draft pick, receiver. Could be good. Last year, Chuba Hubbard, 250 carries, 1,195 yards, 10 touchdowns. Adam Thielen, though, was their top receiver, only 615 yards, 5 touchdowns. Um, I don't think it sounds like a splashy matchup, but, you know, Carolina could be better. Better defense. Jim Caldwell is involved with there, and Dom Capers. So we'll see. Week 13 at Cleveland, also a team, 3-14 last year, dismal season last year. Um, I guess maybe by week 13, we'll know who their quarterback is going to be, I would think. Shedeur Sanders, Dylan Gabriel, who knows what's going to happen over there. They did pick up Mason Graham as their first round pick. That he's the defensive tackle out of Michigan. Maybe he's playing really well. It's a Jim Schwartz defense, and Jim Schwartz has had Kyle Shanahan's number a lot. So they have Joe Flacco, they have Kenny Pickett. Who knows who's going to be the quarterback over there? 3-14, could they be better? Maybe. 10 a.m. start on the East Coast. This is one thing that could be a huge factor or maybe a benefit. Week 14, bye week. That is a long time for the 49ers to have a bye week. It is the latest I think that it can be. So week 14 is a bye week. Obviously, they have the mini bye after the Thursday night game. But while there's not a real tough stretch of the season, the whole first half of the season plus before they have their bye week, that's a lot. But the only good thing is if they're playing really well through the first 13 weeks, they've got a late bye, which could recharge them for the last little bit, that final kick of the end of the regular season, pushing them into the postseason. Could be. I'm just saying. Week 15, they are home. They are hosting the Tennessee Titans, a 3-14 team. Um, Will Levis, Tony Pollard, Calvin Ridley, maybe. They did get the number one pick, though. Cam Ward, he's going to be there. And by that point, we'll know who Cam Ward is. Is he playing well? Did they get enough protection around him as for the offensive line? I think it's always tough for a rookie quarterback to go out there and just light it up, but it has happened. Now, Cam Ward has Brandon Allen, Brock Purdy's former backup. He is going to be Cam Ward's backup. He also will have Tyler Lockett as a reliable target. That's kind of good. Good for him. Brandon Allen is one of those guys who Brock Purdy said was a great help, great support. So, he's a veteran guy who has played for Kyle Shanahan. And you know what? There are a ton of backups across the league that have played for Kyle Shanahan, and that helps them. You've got guys who are playing now in Sam Darnold. You've got guys who are backups in Nick Mullins, in Brandon Allen, CJ Beathard, Jimmy Garoppolo. So, Tennessee Titans, though, don't sound like they're going to be, they're not a team where you go, oh, 49ers are going to have a tough one there. We'll see. We'll see how they look at that point. Week 16, they're at Indianapolis. This is the only game where it's probably going to be pretty cold, but guess what? They're in a dome. We'll see DeForest Buckner. We'll see Charvarius Ward, um, Anthony Richardson. I mean, the biggest threat on this Colts team is Jonathan Taylor, right? 303 carries, 1,431 yards, 11 touchdowns. So yeah, I that's a Monday night football game. I think that might get flexed. So week 16 at Indy, Monday night game, again, could be flexed. All right, week 17, Sunday night football. The 49ers host the Chicago Bears. Now, on paper, right now, the Chicago Bears look a lot better. They paid attention during free agency to shore up the offensive line to protect Caleb Williams. They also got Caleb Williams some pretty good targets. And Colston Loveland, he's a tight end who the 49ers, I think Matt Maiocco mocked him to the 49ers at one point before they had picked up Luke Farrell. But Caleb Williams has Rome Odunze. He's got some targets. The thing about Caleb Williams is he needs to not play hero ball. We've seen it from Sam Darnold when he was with the Jets and at the Carolina Panthers. He needs to just stick in the system. And so if he can do that, he probably could be really successful. I've seen him play when he won the Heisman Trophy. He did sit in the pocket. He did run some. I mean, yes, he's a dual threat, but going through the progressions, making sure that he's playing within the system, that helped him win the Heisman. His last season at USC kind of was not a great offensive line, ran around a lot, and didn't have as great of a year. And that's kind of what happened when he was with the Bears for his first year. All right, week 18, no particular date on this one. It could be Saturday, it could be Sunday. It is home, and they're hosting the Seattle Seahawks. That is the last regular season game of the 2025 season. We'll know at that point whether the 49ers season is still going or whether it's made up at that time that they're going to make the playoffs or whether they're completely out of it. So if the game matters, they'll play on Saturday. If the game doesn't really matter, they'll play it on Sunday. So that's week 18. That's either Saturday, Sunday, the first weekend of January. Big picture, looking at this schedule, they have 8 home games, 9 away games, 5 primetime games. Actually, don't think they're all going to end up being primetime. But for 9 away games, because there's 17 games, so it's not an even amount. Usually it is, but because it's 17 games now, it's not. This is the perfect scenario for them to have away games in places that are domed during the winter or places where it's not going to be tough matchups. It's not like 2024 where they had to go to Green Bay and then the next week play in Buffalo, both outside in the cold. There really isn't a stretch of games where I was like, oh, that's a really tough little section right there because they're playing the last place teams in the divisions. So, I think the most important thing to look at in this schedule is that the 49ers do not play any team coming off their bye week. 2024, they played 6 teams coming off their bye week. They had the worst rest differential in the entire league. So this is, it's a good thing for the 49ers. Super Bowl is being played in Santa Clara in 2026, the end of the 2026 in February, end of the 2025 season. So I think this schedule sets up well for the 49ers. I think they'll win 10, 11 games maybe. Vegas has it at 10 and a half. So yeah, that's right where I think. I think it's going to be difficult to beat the Rams 2 times. I think they'll split one of those. But overall, pretty favorable schedule for the 49ers. No super cold games in December. That could have been the Seattle game. It could have been um, New York, but those are both during, moderate times. Now, November 2nd at New York, obviously, stranger things have happened. It could be really cold in New York at that time, but nothing like Buffalo or Green Bay like last year. So this all sets up for, I would think, a positive season, a much better bounce back season for the 49ers. Um, those are all the interesting takes that I have for you at this point. I'm going to kind of do a little bit deeper dive looking at this schedule, but that's where we're at. Let me know what you think the 49ers record will be. Do you agree with Vegas, or do you think it's going to be better or worse? There's been a lot of comments on the videos that are saying this is a rebuild year. There's no way they're going to have a winning record. But looking at the opponents, I would think maybe you change your mind a little bit, or maybe not. Let me know. All right, everybody. Happy Wednesday. Happy schedule release day. And definitely, I posted some more videos on Instagram and on my shorts here it sounds funny, shorts videos on YouTube. So check those out. Hope you all are well, and I'll talk to you soon. Happy schedule day.